Greetings everyone, Rambling Collector here, and for today's book review we're going to be diving back into the world of indie authors with another work by R.I. Pulsgrove, that being their newest work, Snow White and the Seven Gay Roommates. Now for those of you who have followed this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a major supporter for R.I. Pulsgrove and their works, specifically their Dead Souls universe, as well as any others that I've covered in the past. But this one here in particular was a very nice departure. That being, it's different from the Dead Souls universe that they have been currently crafting, and it represents a more one-off, more fluffier romance novel. Not to mention, it's also a spin on the classic tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But, honestly, I didn't expect to enjoy this book as much as I did. And as I kept reading, it was definitely a nice departure after reading Murtagh, which was definitely a very heavy and very thought-provoking and also very dark book. So Snow White here was a nice little departure and helped me to kind of relax and unwind after such a huge book that I undertook. But I think I've talked enough about it here on the title. Let's go ahead and talk about it in the overall thoughts. So firstly, this provides a fun and more modern spin on a classic story. Like we all know about how it goes, with Snow White being raised by the Wicked Queen, who is her stepmother, after her father has passed away, and from this we see that at one point she runs away after nearly getting assassinated, and runs and lives with the Seven Dwarfs, each of whom has a unique character aspect to them that defines them as a character. From happy to Doc to grumpy to sneezy, all of that. But this provides a more fun way to look at it and a more modern spin on it, with Rachel, that being the evil queen, and Snow White herself, both of them being popular YouTubers, with Rachel being a more online influencer with sponsors of candles and many other things and very famous talk shows, whereas Snow White does more, I want to say, more commonly relatable things, such as nature walking or sewing, things of that nature. She appeals more to the common folks, whereas Rachel is more influenced by likes or comments or things like that, people feeding her ego, whereas Snow is very humble, and that is personified by my analysis of her being the literal sweet character too pure for this world, with Rachel herself being an absolute monster and narcissistic to the core. And one of the things that I really liked here is that we actually get Rachel's perspective along with Snow White's. It isn't just Snow White looking at Rachel and learning that she's a monster. We also feel more anger and disgust towards Rachel herself because we get to know her. We get to hear her thoughts in the reader's perspective, and we grow to hate her over time, especially with some of the stuff that she does to Snow, which I'm not going to spoil, but you'll just have to see for yourself. But I will say, they get more and more degenerative over time. Like, they just get straight up sadistic to a severe degree. But this results in Snow being taken in by the seven gay roommates as shown here. But one of the things that I really liked, though, was that it's genuinely fun to try and compare the seven roommates to the seven dwarfs they're based off of, and figure out who's who. My personal favorite, though, is David, who is essentially the grumpy of the group, but all of them were unique in their own way, and it's kind of fun to really pick it out as who's who in the entire group, like who's grumpy, who is Doc, who is sneezy. And while it is a little bit on the nose in some cases, a lot of it you have to like really think about and be like, oh, this is that person. And for me, it's been years, honestly, since I have seen Snow White, so for me, this was definitely a bit more difficult, I would say. But even so, it was still very fun to read and kind of pick it out, like being like, oh, I recognize who this character is supposed to be. And honestly, though, this also affected me personally since I myself am a YouTuber, so looking at this as an outsider, while having that knowledge, and looking at two people who are also online influencers in a way, gaining an insight into the world of the internet through this book was definitely a relatable subject, especially reading Rachel's chapters and her obsession with media popularity compared to Snow's more honest and humble approach. As I've mentioned before, Rachel is all about, hey, check out these sponsors, or look how lavish of a lifestyle I'm living, or things of that nature. She's more focused on being popular, whereas Snow prefers to appeal more to the people. And a lot of folks love that about her because she's more relatable, more human. Rachel feels too top of the world, whereas Snow is more down to earth. You know, that sort of basic thing. And I will say, that's one of the things that I loved about it. The chapters were very short, making it very easy to follow along with, and making it easier for us as an audience to read it, because I'm sure a lot of you know this. A lot of books nowadays have like these very humongous, very thick chapters full of writing that sometimes it can be almost exhausting to continue with. But one of the things I love about R.I. Pulsgrove's works, as well as many others, like Anastasia or David Joel Stevenson, for instance, they keep the chapters very, very short, so that way it increases the excitement for the book. You want to keep going because you've just finished a few pages. Now you're on the next chapter. It's a very clever tactic that I still enjoy because it makes it more exciting to continue. With that being said, though, let's move on to random thoughts. So overall, this book in general was, again, a very nice departure, and I know a lot of folks who may follow R.I. Pulsgrove know for a fact that their works are very dark. They're very, very traumatizing in a way, and there is still some decent trauma in here, which, again, I'm not going to spoil because I'm trying really hard not to spoil too much in this book, but mostly I'm just trying to give my honest opinion. But anyways, that being said, though, this one was definitely a nice departure. And I like how the author in this case is trying to essentially flex their writing muscles, and I love when a writer does that. They take that moment to depart from their normal genres that they're comfortable in, and it gives them a challenge to try and bind themselves to a different mindset, to really think, how would the audience enjoy this, or what do I want to put here that still has my particular style, but appeals more to this general audience. And overall, I do think this book is worth a try in that regard, because again, it is a nice departure and allows the author to flex those muscles. For instance, one other author that I think that can provide a good example of that is Anastasia, an author whom I've followed for a while now, who's published multiple books and series as of this rate, both standoff novels and full-fledged series, which they have continued even to this day. But each and every work of theirs is different. It's a different universe. But I recognize that there is a certain style that they try to go for. That being of having two characters who have a genuine, heartfelt romance that you actually root for. It doesn't feel toxic or unrelatable. There's a genuineness to it that you want these characters to succeed in their romantic quests and wanting them to succeed in the plot. That's one of the things that I love about certain authors. They always have that unique style that eventually you can recognize, but in different forms. I think I might do a real talk on this at some point. And forgive me, folks, for babbling about that. I know this is completely unrelated to the book. But again, for those of you who are big Snow White fans, I feel like you will enjoy this one because this is a more modern take. In some cases, it can be hard to relate since it's very old-school fantasy. And I know they've readapted the Snow White story quite a few times. There's, of course, the classic Disney version, and then there's Snow White and the Huntsman, a movie series that I genuinely need to check out sometime if I want my kneecaps to remain intact. For all of you Snow White and the Huntsman fans, please do not bomb on me or flame me in the comments. I know that's something I need to catch up on. Please forgive me. And this one, though, was definitely a nice little take, and I really hope the author does more like this. I genuinely hope so. But moving on, I think we'll go on to the conclusion right now. But as you all know, from the praises I've been heaping on this thing, you all know what score I'm going to give it. Overall, I'd have to give Snow White and the Seven Gay Roommates, God, I'll never get over that title, a solid 10 out of 10. Once again, this is not a typical R.I. Pulsgrove work. This is something more lighthearted, friendly, more of the fluffy romance, which a lot of folks might gravitate more towards compared to the Dead Souls universe, which is a bit more heavy, but still sweet in some cases. This one here, just pure fluff, and I loved it. And once again, if you guys are dealing with some heavy books though, like you've had some genuinely dark or very depressing books in a way, This might be a nice little departure or comfort read. It's the best way I would describe it. It's a nice way to kind of like cleanse the palate and remind you that, hey, life's not all bad. There are still going to be some dark moments, but not everything is doom and gloom, that there's still some lights at the end of the tunnel. And this really shows that. Not to mention, it also showcases the difficulties of aging, which is definitely a consistent theme throughout, with both Rachel being very uncomfortable with it, whereas Snow is genuinely okay with it. And honestly, that is another major theme you're going to encounter here, and I'm sorry to drop that last minute. It kind of slipped my mind until now. But regardless, though, I hope you all enjoyed this review. If you liked it, then I will leave a link to the indie authors playlist that I've done here before in the past, and I hope you're able to check out more of those creative works as you will. Or, if you're a follower of R.I. Pulsegrove and you want to learn more about some of their other works, I will leave a link to that playlist here as well. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, or subscribe if you're curious for more of my future videos or reviews that I've got planned and cooked up, ready to go. And once again, thank you all for listening. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now, and I will see you all in the next review. Have a great day, fellow readers.